I think what I'm going to do to start off with is start with this cute, super cute stamp set called Movie Night. We've got our little boy and girl sitting on their popcorn, eating up their popcorn, and the popcorn machine that you'll find in the movie theater, and a cute little popcorn thing here. Not sure what I'm going to do, but you know what? You guys know me. I'm always seat of my pants crafting, so I never know for sure what I'm going to do. I am going to start off by doing some stamping on some white cardstock with these cute stamps, and this is the first time they're going to be used, so they aren't conditioned yet. And I love the boy and girl, but I do those kind of character stamps more often than I do things like popcorn, and this, I don't have anything like this stamp set. And let me go ahead and get that off of there because it is a little sticky. These are really good photopolymer stamps, which means that they do stick to the acetate a little more than you probably want them to. Let's go ahead and take off this. Okay, and I was incorrect. I thought that the popcorn and heart on the inside would be one of those things that comes out, but you could definitely mask it off if you want to do it and add that cute little face, because I love that little face. So I think I may do that on the next one, but I'm going to do at least one like that. And I can't help it. I got to do the little girl too. She is cute. I think I've got enough. If I've got enough room on this one card panel, I will do her too. And this did not come with coordinating dies, which means you either will need to use your scan and cut to cut them out, or you will be wanting to, fussy cut them out. I haven't decided which I'm going to do yet. I'm probably going to use my scan and cut because I'm going to be stamping these guys out in some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. So it's going to have a really good dark black border. And my sticky grid is keeping those down well for me. Next, let's get out some anti-static powder because I'm also going to emboss with some clear embossing powder. Now what this is going to do is going to make it look like I've got black heat embossing. And I don't like black embossing powder because it goes everywhere and it's almost impossible. I mean, you basically, when you stamp it down, you wind up with those little flakes go pretty much everywhere. They go to areas that you did not want. Okay. Make sure I get plenty of ink on there. Like I said, these are brand new stamps. Sometimes they don't transfer over as well. And I'm using this ink instead of my Gina K because I'm going to do the embossing. And this VersaFine does tend to stay wet a little bit longer. So let's see how that first stamping turns out. That looks good. Let me go ahead and grab that up, put it in my tray, and then I'm going to cover this with some embossing powder. This is Wow Clear Gloss embossing powder, and that's going to give that real pretty embossed raised edge. I think the last time I used my good tweezers were when I was embossing last week, and now I can't find them. So if you guys stole them or can talk to the crafty gremlins and tell them to give me back my scissors. Oh, and I just noticed my popcorn, the word popcorn, did not stamp completely, but that's okay. Because I'm using my MISTI, I should, if I didn't shift anything, I should be able to restamp it and redo that one little area. It is getting a little bit warm on my fingers though. So needless to say, I did not have my card panel lined up correctly when I started, which means that when I went to stamp it the second time, that sentiment was not in the right place. So I'm going ahead and restamping the whole thing. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to be wasting the other. I'm going to be able to color those and use the additional pieces. Maybe not the part that's got the popcorn on the little card here, but I can use the other girl and the other popcorn bucket for another card. So now I've got my embossing powder covering all of that ink, and now we're going to heat this one up. So we're going to do the same thing that we did the last time. And I think that looks fabulous. So next I'm going to go ahead and color up my images. Now this is, I'm going to be using my Spectrum Noir markers, and for the pop card I'm deciding on the G5 family. And this one, the first marker I'm doing is the GY5, and that's going to be for the shadow section on my popcorn. And I'm not going to add a whole lot because I don't really want a lot of depth to this, but we do need some, right? So right across the top here, so you can tell that they are inside the container. And I'm trying to make it so you can see which ones are on top and which ones are behind by where I put my darker color. And then we will see how that looks when I add the lighter color. And for that, I'm going to use GY2. Now I did go ahead and do a little swatch of those to see how they look. So these should look pretty good together. Yeah, I like that popcorn. For this big piece of popcorn here, though, I'm just going to cover it with some of the lighter color because there's so much black there that you're not going to be able to go in there and add any kind of depth to it. And it won't hurt the embossed area. Now you do want to sometimes be careful. Don't use too much pressure whenever you're going and coloring anything that is embossed like this, that's heat embossed, because you could damage the nibs on your markers. So we got all of our popcorn colored, but I now need to do the popcorn on my little girl. I do tend to go try to stick with the same markers and get everything done all at once if I can. So first I'm going to do the same thing I did with the popcorn card and color in the popcorn that she's eating. And I'm going to just add this golden yellow to the popcorn that she's sitting on. I think that's super cute. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of depth behind it. Okay, so now we've got our little popcorns done. Okay, so we've got those done. So I am going to go back in and let's go ahead and go with the red. Maybe I'll leave the hearts white and do the rest of the... I could always leave the rest of my my carton stuff. Do it red and the hearts white. That might work. I'm coming in with this really dark, this is a scary dark red, going under where the shadow would be at the top, and then coming down the sides to bring in a little bit of that shadow around the edges so that it'll look kind of rounded. Okay, so I like doing the circular motion right along the edges because it does tend to pull out more of that color from the darkest part and make the shadows look pretty cool. So we're going to go right here at this line. We're going to add some right below the edge there. And around the edges here. And then we're going to color it all in a brighter red. And I just noticed that she has her little popcorn bucket is basically the same as this one. So now I need to color it. But I think I may decide to wait to do that until after I finish the rest of her, because we don't want to have an issue with the red, that little tiny heart basically getting bled on, or the reds of the rest of it bleeding onto her hands or any of that kind of stuff. I figure this piece here is probably metal. And although they probably have it painted, I'm going to go with some grays anyway. So that is a nice light gray, and here's a darker one. So we should be able to make some metallic look on here. Okay, and I think I want this part here to be metal as well. I'm probably going to leave the legs and that part across the front, that border between the machine and between the cart and the machine. I may just leave that part white. I do want to do the wheels in some browns though. So let's grab out a brown. So this one is my RB1. It's not too red, but I'll go ahead and do the handle. It's going to be in red, as are the wheels. And as you're coloring, you sometimes notice some things that you didn't notice before. Like I'm noticing that that circle, there is a circle that was embossed around the heart. So my thought is that that little guy needs to be red to match the rest of it. So the heart's going to stay white, but around it is going to be the red. So that the wheel matches the cart. So the cart is done. Now I just need to finish up her. So what color clothes do I want her to have? Okay, so I'm going to go with this like kind of a blue-green. This is the AB2 and 3. Okay, so that looks super cute. Oh, but I also have her hairband, because of course we want her hairband and a little tie piece up at the top to match her clothes, right? So I'm just going to add a little bit of this. It also means that the center part, if you decide not to go back over it with your lighter color, the center part's going to be a little bit lighter than the outside anyway. So I'm just adding a little bit of this to blend them together. Now I need to work on her hair. I think I want to go with the reddish brown. So let me just double check the colors and see if this is what I want to work with. I do have some other colors of yellow. I do have some reds and oranges. I'm going to start off with the RB1, which is this lightest one. I'm going to go with RB2 next and add some strands of hair in there. It's not too bad. am going to go back in with my RB1 to kind of blend some of that together, and then I can go in, I think, maybe with my darker. So first I'm going to put a little bit of a shadow around her ribbon. And under this little piece up here in the front. And then try blending that out a little bit. And then underneath her neck, of course. Then I'm just adding a little bit of this darkest right at her part. I think I'm going to stick with that for her hair. Like I said, I'm out of practice at it, but it still looks pretty cute. And these are handmade cards, not Hallmark, so you put yourself into every card that you create. Now I'm going to come in with some of my flesh tones and test them out to see what color they are. Okay, so this is going to give her a nice light skin tone, and then I can come back in with some of the darker ones to add some shadows and some pink rosiness to her cheeks. So this one is kind of a peachy tone. Let me add that to her hands. And that one again was FS5. My Spectrum Noir, especially the FS series, do not match the colors that are on the caps, and they don't go in basically in the ombre order that you would expect. Like you would expect FS1 to be the lightest, but that one actually is darker than my FS5. So this is the only one that doesn't do quite right, and I don't really understand it, but it doesn't mean you can't use it. It just means figure out what works for you. Okay, so I've got a little bit of that shadow in. I'm going to come back in. Okay, FS3 is my pinky one, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. I also use the coral colors a lot when it comes to the to cheeks, but I think that looks pretty cute. And now we're going to go back in with our red to take care of the rest of her little bucket. And add that pop of red right in the middle of there. And avoiding doing anything that's going to make it bleed. So I think that is turning out cute. So next I need to cut these guys out and figure out how I'm going to add them to a card or two. So as I'm cutting these, I am leaving that little bit of a white offset around it all, so it kind of gives the illusion that it is a die cut. Because you know how most cutting dies do leave that little bit of a border. And I think the reason for that, and it makes total sense in my mind to be honest, I think the reason for that is so that they don't have to be absolutely perfect. It is really hard to line up your dies so that they're going to be exactly where you want them. And I have the same kind of issue with my scan and cut as well. I know I said I was probably going to cut these out with my scan and cut, but I decided I would just go ahead and fussy cut them because they really don't take all that long to do. Especially this little popcorn bucket. It's got mostly straight lines, so you don't have to really worry too much about how well your cutting is. Okay, so I'm going to trim that off. And next I need to decide what pattern paper. You don't have to use the pattern paper in the box of the month, but it is super cute, so I'm going to use something in here. So let me start off with my popcorn cart. I could also use other stamps from that stamp set for a sentiment once I decide where I want everything to go. And I can always put that like on some white cardstock or something like that. So I do like these, but they are really, really busy. So unless I go with, could do that. How many of you guys have extra stuff sitting off to the side whenever you're crafting? And okay, so I do have some of these. I have some die cut shapes that have been sitting in my stash for a while that I have not used. So I could go with that. I think that would be pretty cute. And I'll be honest, it is similar to other designs that I've done in the past because I like it. You kind of sometimes do the same design over and over and over again. So I've got my card base here, and I think what I'm going to do is I'll take that, and let's go ahead and trim it down for the front of the card. Okay, and my card is going to be vertical. I'm going to have it as a vertical side opening card. So let's cut it down to, still kind of deciding. So we've got this paper that looks like glitter. We've got different colors in this pack that look like glitter. We've got the gold and the blue and the red. So what I could do is do this on the front and maybe some of the gold as a trim piece. I think that's what I want to do. So I'm going to cut this basically in half. So the card front is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. This card, the paper pack is 6 by 6. So I'm going to cut this down to 3 inches. And then I'm going to take out one of the gold. I mean, I could use the red, and that would be a pretty look, but I think the gold is going to pop better. So here is one of the gold, and it's got a similar design on the other side, meaning I could do 2 cards with kind of the same look. So one thing I like to do on most of my cards is leave a little bit of a border. So although this is 2 inches, it's basically about 2 1/8. So that's going to leave me with, I think, about 1 1/8. I'm going to say 1 1/4, and then we will change it up when it turns out that I'm wrong. I can always trim it down. I'd rather it be a little bit too big and trim it down than the opposite. So go ahead and cut that one off. Plus I got plenty of extra. So let me just see if my measurements were about right. I think it's where I did I did a little bit big. That's fine. I think I'm going to cut off a 1/2 inch there. I really only needed a 1 inch strip, but having a 1/4 inch strip of glitter cardstock, even if it's not real glitter, it's always a good thing because you can always use that on something else. Okay, so with that, I am going to trim these down a little bit too, because I want a little bit of extra, a little bit of white around the outside. So the card is 5 1/4. I'm sorry, 5 1/2. So I'm going to cut it down to, I'm going to go with 5 1/4. If I need to cut off a little bit more, that is totally fine. So yes, I am auditioning all the things before I put them in place. So I think that is probably good. Let's see what it looks like with this piece. Because it is a slicker cardstock, a lot of cardstocks do not have like this slick coating on the outside that these pattern paper packs do. So I can't use my dot liner adhesive. That's fine. I'm just instead going to use my art glitter glue, and then we'll put that in place, making sure everything is going in the right direction. So I've got the card base opening that way, and this is going to be coming right over here near the edge, but a little bit away. Plus having it with a liquid glue gives you a little bit of wiggle room so that you can get everything in place and slide it around a little bit if you need to. And then I can slide that one in place as well. And this one, it doesn't matter if doesn't matter which direction it is, because it is that pretty gold. Okay, we've got that. Oh, that's going to be super cute. Okay, that's what I'm going to do on the next one. I think I'm going to use the back of the pages that I just did to go with that one. And actually, I like the design like that on both of them. And then I can do a sentiment. So let me do one other thing that is kind of my norm. I'm getting out my foam tape, and I'm going to pop these pieces up. This foam tape is only about 1/8 of an inch thick, which makes it perfect for this. You get a little bit of added dimension without having too much extra bulk, which means it's easier to go through the mail. And I think I've only had a couple of cards actually come back where I had to, resend them because of not having the right amount of postage. Okay, and then we'll place that in the middle. I'm going to try to get it lined up about center. Okay, I think I'm going to put a little tiny sliver of foam behind the leg and behind the handle, so that they don't, so that they're adhered down, and that means it's not going to be as easy for somebody to kind of pull them up by mistake. So we don't want them to do that. Okay, there we go. And the same thing over here. And then take all of the release paper off. And then we'll put our little popcorn guy on the front. And then I'll need to decide whether or not I want to put a sentiment on the outside or if I want to go with it on the inside. But I think this is cute. So we're hooking up for a movie night. That's kind of a cool date night kind of card. And since I've got this little lady here, I think I want to do the same kind of thing with her. So she's going to be on top of the yellow. And then we're going to have the red as the little accent. So I just need to cut down my pattern paper pieces. So this is going to go at 3 inches. And then this one is going to go at 1. And then we're going to cut both of them down to 5 1/4. And again, putting everything on there with my art glitter glue. Okay, one more time with the foam on the back of the diamond. Line that up right about center. I think that is close enough, and then I'll add some foam to the back of my cute little girl here. And then again, add her to the front. And I think I'm going to have her a little bit further down, as for this one I do think I'm going to actually add a sentiment to it as well, and I could have that kind of going across the top. So my card is a little bit thick because I did those 2 layers of foam, but I also want to add a sentiment on the inside. And because of that thickness, it's not going to work that well in my Misty. So instead, I'm going to use an acrylic block to put my sentiment and everything on the inside. And I think I'm gonna, yeah, I'm debating. I've got the 2 cards. I've got this one where she's eating her little popcorn, and then I can do one of them with the die cut or the cut out piece, and I can do the other one where I just stamp it in there. So that I think will be fine. One of the sentiments also says, "I love you more than buttered popcorn." I think that is super cute. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that one. And again, I'm going to use some black ink, but this time I'm going to use my Gina K because it's not going to stay wet as long as the VersaFine did, and we wanted the VersaFine to stay wet longer because we were doing the heat embossing. We needed the embossing powder to stick, right? So let's go ahead and add some ink down to our sentiment. And I'm going to stamp off. I don't do this very much, but I am going to stamp off to see how well it is stamping. And I can also use this as a sentiment on another card. So let's go ahead and stamp that down, let it rest a little bit. And that actually looks really, really good. So that means I can stamp this down and make sure that it fits right where I want it. Okay. This is the scary part. I don't do hand stamping that much. I always use my Misty. Oh my goodness. Let's go ahead and try it. Okay. Pressing it down, making sure not to touch the white cardstock with my fingers in case I've got any black ink on there. And it's not 100% perfect. It's not quite as dark as I want, but I'm going to say that it's good. I'm not going to try to redo it. Okay, let's see. Do I want some gold on the inside too? So I'm thinking I can put my little popcorn thing here. Yep, we're going to go with it. We add some art glitter glue to this, and this is going to hang off the edge a little bit because the strip is a little longer, but that is totally fine. And I'm not going to go completely up to the edge there because that makes it harder for it to actually close. And then we're going to do this one down just flat. Okay, there we go. And then just trim off the excess. So that one is all finished up. So since we already have this cute little sentiment, that was my stamp off of the other one, I'm going to just trim that down, and then we can use it on the front of this card, because you know I said that I wanted to add a sentiment to the front of the card, right? So let's just, this is kind of an easy one. It doesn't really need anything additional, so I'm just going to trim square around it, and if you have a die that works for it, you can definitely do that too. And my cutting is a little bit crooked, but you know what? This is handmade, not Hallmark. I know we say that a lot, but it is true. Okay, so now I have my little sentiment. And I really need to find my good tweezers because they are hiding. So I can either add it up at the top or up down at the bottom. I think it'll pop a little bit more going against that red. I mean, it's not going to be just on the red, but I think it'll work. So I'll go ahead and add some liquid glue to the back of it. Because she apparently loves her popcorn because she is eating that up. And then on the inside, I'm going to do the same kind of thing and use my acrylic block, which is always scary. And for this one, I'm going to use some Maker Forte telephone box. Okay, need to be very, very careful. If I mess this up, it's okay because I can cut another panel to go on the inside. I have to tell myself that I'm not actually going to be screwing up my card if I make a mistake here. Okay, and this is a juicy ink pad. That looks pretty good. Okay, so cross my fingers as I'm dropping it, crossing my fingers. I'm going to actually have it off the bottom as well, so I don't have to worry about that being completely straight. And that looks great. I love it. Love, love, love it. Now this is going to help me to hopefully get it straight because I've got it lined up with the grid lines that are on my block. That's just a trick to hopefully get it right. And I'm going to go with some red on the inside too. So we've got red on the outside. So red on the inside is going to work as well. Let me get that extra off of there because knowing me, I would touch the edge down where I don't want it. And I'm going to put this like right down here beside where my cart is and kind of in the center. Okay, so that is pretty good. So that's going to finish up this video for the Not Too Shabby Shop. I think these cards turned out super cute. And next, I'm going to have to play with the other one, which is going to be the Alice in Wonderland. Meet Me in Wonderland. Also, this video is part of a hop, so be sure to check out all the other videos in the hop because I know there's going to be a lot of inspirational projects for you to see. You guys have a wonderful day, and remember, if I can make it, you can too. Oh, one last thing, be sure to check out this playlist over here to see some more projects where I'm using Not Too Shabby Shop products. You guys have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.